Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. Today's video we have got two cows to show you and they are both rechecks from our previous videos. First up is 976. This is the cow from the This Hoof Sure Looks Angry underneath video from about a month ago. In this video she had a lot of heel separation which led and unveiled a pretty nice sized lesion. Carve this all away, remove the loose horn from that, and we treated it like we do many of these with some salicylic acid and a block. This is what it looked like at the time. Lesion down below and some subsequent digital dermatitis up above as well. Multiple little patches across that heel section. As I mentioned, we treated that with some salicylic acid, put a block on that other claw, gave it a wrap, and now this is what it looks like. Well, 31 days later. You can see that block has fallen off, but the healing looks pretty good. We're gonna have to do a little bit more cleaning to see how it looks, but at first glance, not too shabby. So anytime I pull a foot and I find that the block has come off, I'm always questioning when did that block come off and did that affect the healing process with this particular animal? Now in this case, like I said, everything appears to be healed up nicely. But the more that I work here, the more that I'm going to unveil some redness in that new horn that's been produced. And that's telling me that while that block likely came off a couple weeks ago prior to this fully healing, and that was still causing some stress to that claw on the inside because of that. So that's why the importance of trying to keep those blocks on as long as possible is key. Now, that's also why not removing all of this horn all the way down to one level on that very first trim was important. Had I made that entire medial claw really soft and that block did come off prematurely, that would have left her with nothing to walk on except that middle claw, that medial claw that was really soft at that point. And that obviously would have been painful. But because we didn't do that, we left that toe section a little bit deeper. When that block did come off, even though it probably wasn't completely healed, as you're seeing here, there's some evidence that it wasn't completely healed at that time, she was able to get on without really much notice of any lameness whatsoever. When she came in, looked great. But obviously you can see there is some redness in that horn yet, which means that it wasn't healed at the time. As we zoom in here, you can see that original lesion spot, that is gone. That dermatitis, that too is gone. But as I touch this, you can see it gives there, meaning that that hoof horn is not thick enough to bear weight yet, which means I need to prep that other claw and get a block on it. Now in this case, this block isn't being used to heal a lesion, it's simply being used as rest to allow that sole to thicken up a bit. Now this cow, she decided you guys are probably getting bored with the normal exit of going forward, so she's going to back up, showing you how that foot works. How do you like that? Pretty tricky, huh? Now let's move on to the second foot of the day, and that's this one right here. And this one comes from our original video. This cow's corium couldn't handle the pressure. In that video, there was clearly signs of pressure problems. We had some bruising in that typical sole ulcer site. As we started to pare away, it became pretty obvious where that problem was. If you have not seen the original videos, I will put those links in the description below. And once again with this one, it was a pretty significant area of separation. We pared that area away, and this is what it looked like underneath. Still had a little bit more work to do after that. And then, much like that last one, we gave this one a salicylic acid wrap as well. Now here we are, exactly 3 weeks later. And what you're going to notice with this one is, yes, number one, that block is still on. But two, even with 10 days less healing time, this claw is much firmer and much more healed than that other one. And that's due to that protection that that block was giving. So what exactly are my objectives when it comes to rechecks? Well, with this particular case, what I'm doing not only is making sure that that hoof horn is progressing like it should, but once I realize that it is, I'm going to trim this area up and I'm going to create now a uniform thickness throughout that heel section with that outside wall and that sole all along the same plane. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of times I'll leave that outside wall in place in case that block were to come off, as it did in that previous case we looked at. But here, I'm not worried about that anymore. I've got almost adequate sole thickness at this point, where if that block did come off, I wouldn't be concerned with that. So now, when I trim this, I can create that as one level plane and not be concerned of any repercussions if that block does fall off. All that being said, I am going to leave this block on for a little bit longer yet. Even though I'm not concerned if it were to fall off, I want to give this claw some extra rest yet. And because that block is still positioned correctly, I can do that without any worry about compromising that lateral claw. Here I give you a good close-up of where that ulceration is, what that horn looks like now that it's filled in. You can see, if you look beyond this outer layer, you can see that there's nice white horn up behind that. And when I push on this sole is nice and firm now. But like I said, I'm going to leave that block on just to let it rest. I'm to this farm really frequently, so it's not a problem to get this block removed. Now this cow, she's going to leave in the traditional fashion, walking forward. All right, guys. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you all on the next one.